If you're watching this video right now, you might be carrying a weight that feels unbearable. Maybe you're asking yourself the same questions that so many others have asked throughout the ages. Why does God allow me to suffer? Why, despite my faith, does everything I do seem to fall apart? Why, if I am saved and chosen by God, does it feel like nothing in my life is going right? Why is God keeping me around? Can you relate to this feeling? Have you been there? Maybe you're there right now, struggling to find any meaning in your pain and questioning why God seems to be allowing your suffering to continue. If so, this video is for you. Let me tell you something very important. Your pain is not meaningless. Your suffering is not a sign that God has forgotten you, and it's not evidence that He doesn't care. It's easy to believe those lies when life feels overwhelming, when the losses keep piling up, when the world seems so harsh and unfair. But the truth is, even in your darkest moments, especially in your darkest moments, God is with you. The Bible tells us in Psalm 34, verse 18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Maybe you feel crushed right now. Maybe everything you thought was solid has crumbled away, and you're left holding the pieces, wondering why God has allowed this to happen. But what if I told you that, even though it doesn't make sense right now, God is still working in your life? What if I told you that your suffering, as painful as it is, has a purpose? This video isn't about offering you easy answers, because let's be honest, there are no easy answers when it comes to suffering. But we're going to explore together what the Bible says about suffering and how God can use even the hardest trials to bring about something beautiful. It's important to first acknowledge the reality of suffering. Life is hard. The world is broken. Ever since sin entered the world, suffering has been a part of the human experience. You see it everywhere: sickness, death, broken relationships, natural disasters, financial hardships. None of us are immune to it. But the truth is, God never promised us a life free from pain. In fact, Jesus Himself said in John 16, verse 33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Notice that Jesus didn't say, "You might have trouble," or "Some of you will have trouble." He said, "You will have trouble." It's part of living in a fallen world. But here's the key. Jesus also said, "I have overcome the world." Your suffering, as painful as it is not the end of the story. There's more to your journey than the pain you're facing right now. Maybe you've reached a point where you feel forgotten by God. You've prayed, you've cried out, you've asked for help, and yet the pain continues. It feels like God is silent, like He's turned His face away from you. It's one of the hardest feelings to endure, to wonder if God still cares about you at all. One of the psalmists felt the same pain. In Psalm 13, verses 1 through 2, he cries out, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and every day have sorrow in my heart?" If you've ever felt like this, you're not alone. The Bible is full of examples of people who wrestled with feelings of abandonment and despair. And yet, even in their darkest moments, God had not forsaken them. The same is true for you. God's silence does not mean His absence. Sometimes in the quiet, God is doing His most profound work in our lives. Sometimes He allows the silence so that we can press into Him, grow deeper in our faith, and learn to trust Him, even when we can't see the way forward. One of the hardest questions to wrestle with when you're going through intense suffering is, why is God keeping me here? What's the point of all this pain if I'm just going to keep losing everything? If you've ever felt like you've lost everything, your home, your health, your loved ones, then you might be wondering why God would continue to sustain your life. After all, wouldn't it be easier if He just ended the suffering? Why does He allow you to keep waking up to more pain? The Bible gives us a glimpse of the answer in Jeremiah 29, verse 11, where God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This verse doesn't mean that you won't experience pain or that life will be easy, but it does mean that God has a purpose for your life, even if you can't see it right now. The very fact that you are still here, that you've survived the unimaginable, means that God is not done with you yet. Your story is not over. There is more that He has planned for you, and He's keeping you here because there is still work to be done in and through your life. It's okay to not understand why everything is happening the way it is. It's okay to cry out in frustration and grief. But even in the midst of the confusion, trust that God is writing a bigger story, one that includes redemption, healing, and hope. One of the hardest things to accept is that suffering doesn't mean God is punishing you or that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes we think, if only I were a better person, if only I had more faith, maybe this wouldn't be happening to me. But that's not how God operates. Romans 5 verses 3 through 4 tells us, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Your suffering isn't pointless. It's shaping you. It's building in you a strength and a depth that you wouldn't have known otherwise. God is refining you, preparing you for something greater. And while it's painful now, there will come a day when you look back and see the way God was working in the middle of it all. God doesn't waste your pain. He doesn't let you walk through suffering without a purpose. Even when it feels like everything is going wrong, He is with you, shaping you, molding you into the person He's called you to be. If you're wondering why you're still here after everything you've been through, I want to encourage you to lean into God's promises. He is the God who brings beauty from ashes, who turns mourning into joy. He has not abandoned you, and your story is not over. As we continue in this video, we're going to dive even deeper into why God allows suffering and what it means for your life. But for now, I want you to know this. God is with you in the pain. He has a purpose for you, and He will see you through. If you haven't yet invited Jesus into your life, this might be the moment. Let Him walk with you through your struggles. Let Him be your strength, your comfort, and your guide. He promises to never leave you nor forsake you.